Hello everyone, and welcome to week 10 of English 111. This week, our focus will continue to be on your research project. Now that you've turned in your research prospectus, the next step is in the research process is writing a topic history. We're going to take some time to get there, but first, what you're going to do is you're going to listen to this lecture about working with sources. You're going to read Bruno Bettelheim's essay, The Child's Need for Magic, found on pages 318 to 326 in The Conscious Reader. And you're going to do the following assignments. You're going to participate in a discussion forum where we'll be working with the child's need for magic as a source. We will also be writing in our journals. There's one journal entry this week. And you'll be turning in a topic history, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So this week's reading is a defense of fairy tales, which draws a lucid contrast between the reasoning of children and that of adults. And what I'd like you to notice while you're reading it is how well the author makes use of pertinent examples to recreate a child's sense of reality. He's going to be making an argument, and we're going to be examining that argument in our discussion forum. But before that, I'd like to talk a little bit about working with sources. When you read, you want to read actively with attitude. Reading actively means working with a text as you read, skimming it, reading for meaning, and rereading passages that leave you with questions. It means underlining and highlighting a text, noting your reactions in the margins, and taking notes carefully and systematically. Reading with attitude means never taking what you read at face value. It means asking questions, looking for implications, making inferences, and making connections to other sources. You want to use your research questions to help you read critically. Your research questions, the ones that you created as part of your research prospectus, they help you focus your attention on your issue. They provide the foundation for your search plan, and they direct you to specific sources as you collect information. Your research question also provides the basis for developing a position on your issue, which you can also use to guide your critical reading. So your first journal entry today is going to be developing a position statement. To develop a statement about your position on your issue, brainstorm or free write in response to your research question. After reviewing your response, draft a brief statement of your position and use it to guide your critical reading. In your journal, write your current research questions or question, brainstorm or free write in response to your research question. Select the response that best reflects your current understanding of the conversation you have decided to join about your topic. And if appropriate, combine responses into one position statement, then write your position statement. Here's some sample position statements. You can see on the left-hand side is a research question, such as, what should be done about steroid use by adolescent girls involved in competitive sports? And this becomes the position statement. Steroid use by adolescent girls involved in competitive sports should be addressed by educating athletes, parents, and coaches about health consequences and emphasizing fair play. Do you see how by writing a position statement, the author's taken a firm stance on one of these issues? So how do you read with attitude? Reading critically means reading with an attitude. Your attitude will change during your research writing process. As you begin to read your sources critically, your attitude might be one of curiosity. You'll note new information, mark key passages that provide you with insights into the conversation you're joining. You'll adopt a more questioning attitude as you try to determine whether sources fit in your project or are reliable. Later, after you begin to draw conclusions about the conversation, you might take on a more skeptical attitude, becoming more aggressive in challenging arguments made in sources than you were at first. Regardless of where you are in your research writing process, you should always adopt a critical attitude. Accept nothing at face value. Ask questions. Look for similarities and differences among the sources you read. Examine the implications of what you read for your research project. Be on the alert for unusual information and note relevant sources and information. Most important, be open to ideas and arguments, even if you don't agree with them. Give them a chance to affect how you think about the conversation you've decided to join. As you critically read your sources, answer the following questions. Are the information, ideas, and arguments in this source relevant to my research question and position statement? Does this source present information, ideas, and arguments that make me reconsider my research question or position statement? Does this source provide any new information, ideas, or arguments? Does this source offer a new perspective on the conversation? While you're reading, you want to be active. That means you want to mark your sources, you want to annotate your source, you want to take notes. Reading actively means interacting with sources and considering them in light of the conversation you've decided to join. You want to identify key information, ideas, and arguments, write questions in the margins, jot down reactions to information, ideas, and arguments, record quotations. You're going to need these later when you write your paper. Paraphrases and summaries in the form of notes. Take notes about how you might use the information, ideas, and arguments. Link one part of a source to another visually if you need to. And you can do this while you're reading your sources. Now, what you should begin working on this week is gathering these sources. You're going to need them. So now that you have some skills on how to work with the sources, and as you start writing your topic history, you're going to need to find some sources that are going to help you get that information. This is how I want you to interact with them. What should I pay attention to as I read? You want to identify the type of source that you're reading. Is it an essay? Is it from scholarly journal? Is it a book? Is it a website? Is it a primary or a secondary source? Primary source is like a poem or a novel or a diary, right? Or it's a first-hand account. Secondary is someone talking about that, is using somebody else's primary source. Identify main points and key points to support it. When you read something, like when you're going to read the essay for this week, you want to look at what is the main point of this essay. And what are the subtopics, the key points that the author's using to support that main point throughout the paper. There's also a way that people present evidence. It's called appealing, and there's appeals to authority, asking a reader to accept a reason because someone in a position of authority supports it. There's appeals to emotion, that putting a personal story behind it so you have a human face on an issue. Appeals to principles, values, or beliefs. That's usually calling upon religious or ethical background. Appeals to character. When it's the writer saying, oh, you gotta trust me. Consider the writer's character as a basis for accepting the argument, right? If you trust the author, oh, of course you're gonna trust the argument. Appeals to logic, present a set of propositions and hope that you will accept them and agree with their conclusion. It's kind of if this, then that. Or reasoning based on empirical evidence. Basically, it's based on first-hand experience. When you're reading your sources, you want to ask some questions in order to identify new information and similarities and differences between them. Do your sources tend to fall into one or more genres, such as scholarly journals, books, web pages? Do your sources tend to be primary or secondary sources? Do authors of your sources tend to agree with each other or disagree, fall into various groups? Describe the patterns of the conversations you're seeing. Does the information in one or more sources contradict information in other sources? Do authors tend to rely on similar arguments and evidence? If so, describe the arguments and evidence. Are any sources cited frequently by authors of other sources? If so, identify the source. Usually the first sources you find are going to lead you to the next sources. Always look at the bibliography, look at notes. There'll be clues on how to find more sources. So that's it for this week. I will be posting information about your topic history, which is due this week. And then next week we'll be moving on to the annotated bibliography. Talk to you soon.